Hello, everyone. Nice to see you today. We're here to talk about Agni and immunity. So let's start with closing the eyes and just taking a moment for a little meditation to center our energy and and clear a few things out. So take a couple of relaxing breaths, eyes closed. Bring your attention into the center of your head. And you find the center of your head by drawing a line between the eyebrows straight back and from the tops of the ears straight across. And where those two lines cross, from there, you have an opportunity for equanimity, for even-mindedness, the ability to have neutrality and to see things clearly. And then imagine, so just play with this and just imagine a grounding cord, an energetic cord that goes from the base of your spine to the center of the planet. Hook it into the center of the planet, turn it on release, and just allow yourself to be in the mode of letting go. You can let go of anybody else's energy that you might be carrying around or anything you're just ready to let go of. So in particular, that would be fear. And as you ground and release, then bring some energy from near the center of the planet up through the bottoms of your feet, through your knees, hips, and down your grounding cord, creating a connection with the earth. And then reach way out into the cosmos and bring bright, sparkling cosmic energy right in through the top of your head, down the backside of your spine to the base of your spine. Pick up about 10% earth energy and bring that mixture of cosmic and earth energy back up the front side and let it pour out through the top of your head, filling up your aura. So this is you moving your energy. We're cosmic and earthly beings. And as you do that, you create your aura, you create the energy that your body can reside in. And this is what has us feel good. And this aura has a direct connection then to your Agni, or your digestive fire. Now, here you are running your energy, and whenever you feel not right, or you feel really disturbed, this is a great thing to do. So what if you were to just let go of all of the media and all of the what ifs that are running through your space? So not just in your mind, anywhere in your body, the body feels tense. Because when the body is tense, the cells contract. And this is something that actually is not good for our immunity. So let's just ground out worry and fear, other people's worry and fear, and all of the what ifs. And take a couple of nice, relaxing breaths. Imagine a rose out in front of you, and just let that rose be a healing rose. And a healing rose means that it helps us to keep our energy moving, because energy by its nature moves. And just bring that rose right into the base of your spine, and then just let it move right up through your body, through your chakras, all the way up through your heart, and then right up to the top of your head. And then put the rose out in front of you and destroy the rose. So the energy needs to move. We're continually creating and destroying. So you can light a match and dissolve it, or toss a little bomb at it and just let it be completely dispersed. And then when you're ready, you can open the eyes. So you can freshen yourself up and freshen up that aura anytime, just by taking some nice deep breaths and just letting go down that grounding cord. I'm going to just talk a little bit about Agni and our immunity. And we'll just talk about a few things that we can do to support Agni. So in Ayurveda, we recognize that we often will misuse our senses. In other words, we'll make choices that go against who we are, or choices that aren't good for our body. We know that sometimes, and sometimes we do things and we don't know that. But why does that happen? Why do we do that? Well, it's because there's spiritual disconnection. That we forget about the connection to the God of our heart and how important it is, and that this is where our true strength comes from. That the Lord of love is within all of us, and so Agni is something that helps us to be connected to that. Agni is our life force. It is in the sense that it is the fire that allows us to transform anything that we consume through our five senses. It's energy. And we like to think of it as a fire. I like to think of it like a campfire. And a campfire, if you give it a little wood and a little bit of air, poke it a little bit, that it gets stronger. And if you throw sand or dirt on it, that it smolders and it doesn't work very well. So our Agni then is something that we need to keep burning at an appropriate level for ourselves, because our Agni then is the main component of something in Ayurveda that we call ojas. And our ojas is our immunity. It is also our vitality, and it's also our blissfulness, our ability to have peace and joy and serenity. So feeding ojas, and ojas is like a bank account. It's a savings account. And we draw out of it when we need things, and then we put things into it, and we maintain it. And that's what needs to happen within us. But if we're always drawing things out of it, then we become depleted. And our body doesn't work well, our mind doesn't work well. So this digestion, this ability to digest, isn't just about digesting food. This is about digesting life as well. And there's no distinction really between that. It's all one. In Ayurveda, we look at human beings as holistic beings, where everything affects everything else. Just like this world, we're finding out even more that this is all a holistic organism. The earth is a holistic organism, and our life is that way too. And so the more we do to keep our energy flowing, our prana, our life force flowing, the better we feel, the more able we are to have the human experience. So our Agni then is a real key. It's a very basic, simple key that is at the basis of our having strong immunity. So when the things that we do a lot of things that insult our Agni. I mentioned about, and so it's really important to try to do things that are really supportive of Agni. And so things that would be really, really simple, but maybe they require some big change in our attitude, right? So the Agni then is digesting food, and it's digesting everything in life. So for example then, if I eat bad food, or if I overeat, let's say, then I have a difficult time digesting it physically. But it's also what it affects my mind. My mind then is not clear. I'm kind of occupied with the discomfort that I have in my body. And the same thing, if something happens in my life, maybe like what's happening around us now, that if I go into resistance of that, or I go into fear about it, then even though it might not be affecting me that much directly, then my mind then goes to a place that then disturbs Agni. So it's everything that we consume, we see, we hear, we smell, we taste, and we put on our body. that means that everything matters. And it doesn't mean that we need to be frightened about that. It's really empowering to understand Agni, because then we realize that we have the control, that we can make the changes, and our body and our mind will respond. So, so some of the things that you can do that are really simple is, first of all, chew your food. You have to chew the food or it doesn't digest well. Agni can't handle it if you haven't chewed it thoroughly, because it needs to mix with the saliva in your mouth, and then that initiates the digestive process. Then once digestion starts in a physical sense, then we need to let it continue at least until it's almost complete. So what that means then is to not eat again before the previous food has digested. So that would mean leaving out snacks. And snacks are something, in my early days, in my early life, nobody ever snacked. And because we understood that it would disturb your digestion. But we get distracted by things on the outside and we forget. And so Ayurveda has come around and become much more prevalent now, because we need to remember that being in alignment with nature is what has us feel good. That in the 20th century in particular, he thought overcoming nature was the answer to everything. And from an Ayurveda standpoint, I would suggest that's really not the case. That we need to recognize that we're part of it and live like we're part of it. So we need to let that digestion complete. So chew your food thoroughly until there's no solids when you swallow, and leave out the snacks. And then in order to support your digestion on a physical basis, again, ginger appetizer. So on our website at hollypuli.com, and also on our new app, Live Ayurveda and Yoga, there's a simple recipe to just make a little ginger appetizer and chew that before your meal. And that's going to help you. It helps to wake up your Agni and will help you digest the food. But let's talk a little bit then about the mind and how that makes a difference to Agni. So if I'm angry and upset, then when I eat that, it won't digest properly. If I eat bad food, I'm not going to be able to see things clearly in life. So one of the simple things that we can do then is to practice acceptance in life. When we practice acceptance, it doesn't mean that we agree with things. It just means that I can see what's happening, or I can see what's in front of me. And I can look at it from the center of my head. And when I do that, then I can have some neutrality about it. I don't need to go into fear about it. That I can look at it, see it for what it is, and then I can make choices that are wise. And what this does is it helps me to become present in life. And when we do that, then all of our interactions get richer. That we see the beauty in the simplest things. So practicing acceptance. And then what goes with that is that we need to practice forgiveness frequently. Right? Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes people aren't very nice. And so we need to recognize that we're all capable of doing those things. And we've all done them probably. But forgiving others and forgiving ourselves, again, it doesn't mean we agree with it necessarily. It just means we see it for what it is, and that each of us and our forgiveness, we're willing to just move on with life and see what happens next. Because as you can see these days, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We never did. We just have, we have this idea because things get regular, and that's a really nice thing. But sometimes they're irregular. And then we have the opportunity to learn and grow from that. And that's another thing then that supports Agni, that's tremendously important. And especially, for those of you who are at home or at work, that we have regularity in our lives. that we eat and sleep in particular on a regular basis, that we have regular times for it, and that we do take care of it and not just forget about it or don't do it. Because that really becomes a significant part of the foundation of good living, eating and sleeping on a regular basis. And so for being at home or if one is in quarantine and that, then it's a great opportunity to practice that. And when we do that, each time we do it, it strengthens us. But it also brings stability to Agni and allows it to be there for us. So, so all of the things that are happening in the world right now and the changes that we've had to experience, these are all things that will bring good things to us. And so one of the first ones is make sure you get enough sleep and that you eat on a regular basis. And then let that support everything else that you're doing in your life. And if possible, it's a good idea to take a little stroll after you eat your meal. And particularly if you can just go out in nature a little bit. If you get your feet in the grass or be in the trees, something that is life affirming. And look for ways each day to do life affirming things with your five senses. In other words, look at things that are pleasant, look at things that make you laugh. Make sure that you laugh every day. And that you listen to something that's soothing and sweet for you. That you do the same with your taste and your smell. So Agni then, we said, is the main component that feeds Ojas, and that's our immunity. And the thing that really supports our immunity is to have a positive outlook on life. Because, again, the unknown doesn't have to be bad. Sometimes we have to go through difficult times so that we can understand and appreciate the beauty and the wonder in life, because it will always be there for us. And that's when we can experience our own blissfulness. So I thought I'd address some of the questions that have come in related to Agni and immunity. One of the questions was about EMFs and radiation. And I think a nice way to think about this is the electrification. That when we have that kind of energy moving around us, it's not the easiest thing for the body to handle. The more and more there is of it, I think that's a very difficult thing for the body to handle. It's difficult for Agni, actually. And so it's a much bigger topic, but whenever you can, minimize it. In other words, we're all spending more time probably in front of a computer screen, but make sure that you spend time away from it. Don't spend all your free and relaxing time just looking over things on the computer. Try to be in nature as much as possible, even if you're just relaxing and meditating, things of that nature. But another time, perhaps we can talk more about that in detail. If another question was about somebody having taking medication for having had an organ transplant, so they're taking medication that is to suppress the immune system. And so I wouldn't suggest using herbs to try to boost the immune system. Remember that we don't need to do things for the body that it's already doing. That's our mind that gets worried about that. But what that person can do is make sure they have good balanced eating and living, regular eating and sleeping times, that you're consuming food that's supporting your immunity. That a nice combination of spices so that you have all six tastes in a meal. Those are the kinds of things that are going to be very helpful to a person like that at this time. Hopefully the things that one would be doing no matter what. But living in alignment with nature is the thing that supports us the best. Think about it. What do we do when we want to go have some fun, right? Well, a lot of us will go camping, or we'll go hiking in the forest or hiking on the beach or things like that. What do? We go to nature most of the time. And there's a reason for that, because inherently we know that that's really what's good for us. There's another question about transitioning from a raw food diet to a mostly cooked diet. So how would one increase Agni during this transition? A really good question, because if you try to eat an all raw diet, one of the things that happens is Agni gets impaired. It's too hard for Agni. Some people have a stronger Agni than others by their constitution, and they can handle it a little bit longer than other people. You know, that the whole eating raw food, you know, there's good intention behind that, because the idea is that the raw food has more prana. The only problem is it's not very accessible to most of us. And so the reason that we cook the food is to wake up the prana, wake up the life force in it. And with a vegetable, you can see that really easily, because there will be a color change. And then you know it's awake, and now your body can handle it. And that's also the reason that we put spicing with the food as well. And that spicing should be where they all work together. You know, the elements are present in all of the food, and we like it to work together, because then when we put it in our body, it works really well, and it supports good balance in us. But so cooking the food, I'd say make the transition. You stop one and start the other. And the chewing is going to be one of the most important things. Eating the right amount, you know, what fits in your two hands, and pay attention, don't eat past the burp. And there's information about those things on our website and in our app. But the other thing with transitioning from raw food to cooked food would be to have well-cooked whole grains, because these whole grains provide bulk for the body to move things through the digestive tract, but they also help in the digestive process with the development of digestive enzymes when it's chewed thoroughly. Many people have trouble with whole grains these days because they don't chew. And you want to cook them, you know, cook it with just a little pinch of salt and some ghee, or a small amount of another oil. And it will help you digest and eliminate in a good manner. Then there was another question about the principle that we follow in Ayurveda of like attracts like, and the opposite brings balance. You know, one of the things I like to think about is a pendulum. You know, if you put the pendulum out to one side, it's going to swing back to the other direction, but eventually it's going to come to the center. And the body and the mind naturally want to come to a state of balance. And the question was, but it seems like the body wants to do the opposite. Well, when dosha, which is the elements in the body, are out of balance, it is the mind that's getting in the way. So the body will always come back toward a state of balance, sometimes slowly, sometimes very quickly, but it's the mind that gets in the way. So the body and the mind do want to balance themselves, except when dosha is out of balance, in which case then it becomes very difficult. And also when Agni is very weak, you know, we lose our enthusiasm for life. And so that does make it a little bit more difficult. And that's why it's so important to understand Agni, because it's ours to work with. You know, we want to we buy a car and we want to understand how it works. Well, we have this magnificent tool of our body, and we can understand how it works. Another question. This is a question about getting the right food. And if a person has a lot of vata, they tend to go toward extra overeating, extra healthy food, and then a few days later not caring about it. Well, this again is a sign of vata dosha, which is the air and the ethers. It's the light, airy part of us. And when it's in excess, It will tell you, your mind will tell you to be irregular about everything and that that's what's going to bring you freedom. And I'll suggest to you that that is not correct. It will not bring you freedom. It's important, don't try to do everything perfectly. Just start taking steps in the direction you want to go. So when you think about supporting Agni well and keeping ourselves in balance mentally and physically, which would mean balancing the doshas, that we need to just do it a step at a time and keep yourself pointed in the direction you want to go. So don't get discouraged and say, oh, I didn't do it perfectly, and so just throw everything out the window. And just take one thing, work with it, add another thing, work with it until you get the results that you like. But it is important to recognize that Vata, when it's balanced, doesn't do those things. Vata, when it's balanced, is the part of us that's creative and flexible and can see other people's point of view and can be very caring. But when it's out of balance, then we tend to be all over the place. And so we can't listen to our mind at that point. But Agni and Vata have a very special relationship. So when one is out of balance, the other one is going to be out of balance quickly, if not already. Consistency, consistency. That is the thing that will bring Vata into balance and will best support Agni and your immunity. There's a question about if we're immune compromised, should we have the flu shot or injection? That's a personal decision. But you might want to consider that sometimes putting something else into the body might not be what it needs. If you think about what we're talking about here today and supporting Agni, that's probably one of the best things that you can do to boost your immunity. Certainly there are some herbs that can be taken, but I imagine there's a lot of people taking excess of herbs these days, and that actually can be a deterrent to Agni and our immunity. So extremes are not the case that I would suggest. But if one believes that a flu shot is going to help, then it probably will, because our belief it has a very strong effect on our Agni and our immunity. And then there was a question about a recommendation to drink lots of warm water every 20 minutes. Again, extremes really don't work. If you feel, when we make decisions out of fear, they frequently make us suffer more. So I would be very careful about that. I would try to make your decisions based on, come into the center of your head, ground yourself, bring in a gold sun, make your decisions about that. In general, though, I wouldn't change the amount of water you're drinking. If you drink too much water, it will be harmful to Vata dosha, which will then have a negative effect on Agni, which will have a negative effect on your immunity. But if you're not well hydrated in the first place, then you need to make sure you get enough water, depending on where you live and what you do, somewhere around 1 liter a day. But most of it really should come from water content food. In other words, that your food is fresh, that it's cooked with some water, that when you cook a whole grain in water, then it has water in it. And then you take that in and your body can actually absorb it. But if you just keep drinking lots of water, you might have noticed that it just goes straight through you. And let's see, we'll take a couple more questions. There's a question about how I feel about the contagious nature of this virus. Could I pass this virus to someone if I'm strong, have a good strong immunity, could I pass this virus to someone else? I really can't answer that question. I can say that a very long time ago, at the very beginning of the study of virology, I actually worked in it in virology. I think that we all have virus. We all have virus, bacteria, and fungus in us. That's part of our makeup, and there needs to be a balance of it. If someone isn't strong, am I going to pass it to them? I don't know. I don't know. But this is going on every day and has before any of this was discussed. So, you can just try to think about it that way. But, we all want to be conscious anyway. I mean, you don't want to spit on anybody or sneeze on anybody or anyway. And most of us don't do that. So, I'd suggest that you use some common sense and, take care of yourself. Perhaps you want to make sure that you don't get around people who are really ill because they need maybe a little less exposure, but there's a good chance that it might be that we all have it, and that whether or not it shows up, it's dependent on us. And then there's a question about group meals. So cooking for a larger group. So the question is, people with different constitutions, what's the best way to cook group meals? Yeah, and that's the way at Halipuli that we teach people to cook, so that it's tridoshic. And the concern is to support immunity. Again, we hope that everybody's doing this anyway, right? So this is such a great thing that's happening because everybody's starting to think about the things that we really want to have going on anyway. We tend to, with food, let our tongue take over. And the tongue on its own, especially when it's out of balance, is not something that's going to lead you to good health and good immunity frequently. But the way you can do that is you can take a look at our website and our app, because we have lots of recipes there, and we have some guides there that talk about cooking and eating. But just in the general sense, if you have food that adds to your body and food that takes things away from the body, you'll have a good balance of the 6 tastes. That's what'll do the best for everyone in a group. And just don't do any extremes in the cooking. And what you'll find with that is that everybody will feel satisfied. And that feeling of satisfaction is much nicer than the high that you get when you have some extreme of excessive pungency or an excessive sweetness, for example.
And if the chef doesn't taste the food,
yeah. And one of the things that keeps the balance then in the cooking is that the person who is cooking should not be tasting the food. First of all, it's really bad for their Agni, but it also makes that opportunity for them to put their imbalances into the meal. So the chef should be using their intuition, and being in the center of their head is a great place to start to do that, and then cook that way. And you'll see, in the beginning you might make a few errors because your mind will tell you, oh, maybe I should put some more salt, or then that kind of thing. If you work with some basic tools to do that, to do the cooking, then you use your intuition, you'll do the very best and make beautiful meals. And of course, the most important thing is to put love into the cooking. And just one more question about a call for blood donations. Again, blood donations are really a matter of choice. Does it create some compromise in your immune system? Yes, of course it does. Just common sense would tell you that. And so then it's a matter of, do I feel strong enough, and is it something that I feel good about doing? Yeah, and if it does, then things will be just fine. But to choose not to is okay too. Okay, so let's just take a moment then and close the eyes, come into the center of the head. Perhaps blow up your grounding cord and make a brand new one, and realize that you can do that anytime. Connect it into the center of the planet. Let it be on release. and create a gold sun over your head. And in that gold sun, put the energy of clarity, acceptance, forgiveness, flexibility, and courage, self-love and love of the divine. Pop a hole in your gold sun and allow bright gold, high vibration energy to pour in, and let it fill up all of your physical body, soothing the cells, strengthening, allowing the flow of prana. Feel your grounding cord and fill your aura, and set your aura, your energy, evenly around your body. And then open the eyes. Be in kindergarten when you work with your energy. It works. It's what's going to help us the most through these challenging times. Really great to be with you today.
Should we close with a mantra?
Yeah. And let's close with a mantra, and that we let all of this information bring light to our consciousness. Om Sato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And may you have a peaceful day.